Hey Andrew, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well. It's going well. I woke up, I'm breathing. That's all I can ask for every day.
So we might as well just start podcasting since we're having this conversation. You sent me a really interesting text when we had a group text with me, you, and you're friends with my son Austin. So before we
Yeah.
even get into it, what's your background? You're a trainer, and what do you do?
So right now I'm a personal trainer, musician, full time. My background, I went to college for marketing. So my bachelor's is in marketing.
And you got into physical training. How'd you get into physical? Why physical training, and how'd you get into that?
Yeah, the first time I went to the gym was probably to prepare myself for Valley Forge. That was my
Okay.
first time in the gym ever. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. And the gym has kind of always been, where I want to be and where I like to do things and where I feel like I do my best work.
And you started training. You have a training, I guess, company, which I'm fascinated by the name Prometheus.
Yeah, yeah. The name is basically it's very rooted more in the mythology than the movie, but I guess the movie's based on the mythology. But just the whole concept of how Prometheus is a fire titan who stole the fire of Zeus and gave it to humans, which was essentially just the truth. You know what I mean?
Well, he's actually credited from what I've read because I did a little preparation for this.
Yeah, yeah.
I know Rob is shocked. He we the Prometheus actually they loosely credit him with humanity by saying that he brought
Right.
humanity to
The
humans, right?
creation.
Because of that.
Some people say he created humans out of clay.
Yeah. So you have some of that. You have the fact that he brought fire to mankind, and because he
Yeah,
did that, that created kind of like getting us out of the caves and into whatever. But
yeah.
also he also was like the giver of. So I guess you could kind of look at what you're doing as Prometheus training, the giver of training.
Yeah, yeah. The goal is definitely to kind of give that honest information that actually works, that is the truth. You know what I mean? Because like I definitely can't claim to birth anybody or create anybody, but there might be a rebirth process. You know what I mean? When you kind of come out of the ashes and you phoenix out and you look in the mirror and you're like, goddamn, you know.
So if somebody's new to go into the gym, so I go to the gym. I have my reasons are very mental. So like I
Mm,
go to the gym, for example, last year I was in bad physical shape, bad mental shape. I
mm,
made some changes in my life. I started going to the gym, and
nice.
and it really worked out for me. I look at going to the gym as a way of getting physically and mentally strong. I
Mm,
don't really look at it in terms of like bodybuilding. That's just me.
yeah, yeah.
I look at it as that's a side effect, right? So like I get to look better because I went and I did something hard at the gym.
Mm.
Do you look at it that way too, or do you look at it more like not only am I going to get strong, but I'm in it to look good too.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I personally am a big fan of the sport of bodybuilding, so I know like for me that has a lot to do with my own path and like my own feeling like I'm making progress.
Mhm.
But I think for everybody I can observe, there's a very strong connection between the mind of the body and the spirit. And I think it's difficult to strengthen one without strengthening the other. So I
Right.
think that, whenever you're doing work on the body, you're doing work on the mind, you're doing work on the spirit. So I think there's a lot of gyms and places that work can be done. But you'll always find that it's a flow between breaking something down, building it back up, breaking something down, building it back up. But I feel like to answer your question, for me personally, it's very specifically bodybuilding. I think is my own goal set. But I've noticed that like when I train somebody to run a marathon, it's more about just goal. You know what I mean? Like accomplishing whatever the goal is. So I think that that's where that's where it starts to become universal because most people look in the mirror and they want to do something with what they see. You know what I mean?
Right. I think a lot of it is, and we had on Carrie Mandel, who's an ultra athlete. So she's like an ultra
Nice.
marathoner. She knows
Nice.
all that kind of stuff, right? Next
Yeah.
level shit. So I told her, I said, I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail in New Jersey. It's 72 miles. She goes, I think you can do that in one day. I'm like, what the hell's the matter with you? Maybe she could do
Yeah.
it in one day. I can't. But
Yeah.
in talking to her and in talking to you, I look at it like men need to do difficult things. And in doing these difficult things, whether it's picking up something heavy or moving something
Yeah.
or doing whatever, you becomes part of your building process. It becomes part of of what makes you successful. So like you have to find something hard to do. You have to overcome it. Like I was talking to my friend John Robinson today, who he hiked all of the Pennsylvania Appalachian Trail.
Nice.
And he said in the trail, there's a town, I forget the name. It's in PA. I forget the name of the town. It's right by the PA Maryland border. And he goes, the trail actually runs right into the town. So you get to like go to the town, you get to eat, you get to do whatever. So after 3 or 4 days of backpacking and eating, beef jerky or whatever, they ate at a restaurant and he had mozzarella sticks. And he
Yeah.
said these were the best mozzarella sticks of all mozzarella sticks ever on the planet. And that's because he had to do something hard to overcome
Yeah.
to get to those mozzarella sticks, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. 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 I mean, most good feelings need to be earned. And I think that's where we live. We do live in a state of things where instant gratification runs rampant. So rather than earning the good feeling, people just consume the good feeling. And that's where it's going to go right away because it hasn't been earned. So, like, I think it goes back to the way that I'll view something like spirituality, because I think that, like, from what I've been able to find with what I've looked at, even the concept of something like prayer has been kind of warped over the years. So, like, for people to fall on their knees and pray and feel like they've become closer to God, it's interesting to me because I think I have to find a way to cite it, so I could be wrong, but there's a group of people who used to go on religious pilgrimages where they put on like a robe, put a pair of shoes on, and then they would just walk out the door, and their goal would be to make it to a church somewhere. And then once they made it to this church, they would be so exhausted because it was this journey that they had very low odds of surviving. They'd fall to their knees in a state of exhaustion, and then they would pray and truly be closer to God because they earned it through fear, sweat, and faith. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that to reach a state of proximity to a potential creator, it has to be earned through offering sweat, offering blood, offering tears, ideally a combination of all three.
So I meditate and I do pray daily.
Mm.
All right. So one of the things that I do, and I've been really working on discipline. So one of the discipline things that I've been working on is if you ever heard of this thing, it's called the Liturgy of the Hours. So
I heard that.
Liturgy of the Hours is something that all Catholic priests are supposed to pray every
Okay.
day. So there's a couple things in the morning. There's like a mid-morning prayer, mid-afternoon prayer, a midday prayer, and it goes all the way down to a prayer at night. And they change
Nice.
through different things. And some of the terms are like at night you pray Vespers, which you know from military school, right? And you kind of do these different prayers throughout the day. And the idea is that you're supposed to do the one in the morning and the one in the evening at minimum. But then if you can add, so to me, it's about that discipline. It's about that I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to say this prayer and there's an app, believe it or not, there's an actual app that you can do this with, right? Because the prayer changes every day. And then I'm going to do my morning workout. I do like a quick morning workout, and then I work out in the gym in the evening. And then I go about my day. And if I can, I'm trying to discipline myself to say, hey, at lunchtime every day, I'm going to do the afternoon. And in dinner time every night, I'm going to do the evening. And it makes it easy. It pops it up on your phone. But I think that when you're able to dedicate that discipline helps you to be closer to that higher power. So that discipline may be, I'm going to go to yoga class every night. I'm going to work out every day, whatever that my schedule is. It's like David Goggins. It's like that constant, or Jocko, or any of these guys. It's that constant, that discipline, and that discipline brings you freedom, because now you get to be closer to whatever you believe in or you don't believe in, however you decide to do that. But it also brings you closer to how you uh how you how you feel, and it makes you freer because it frees you from all of this bullshit. And you know that just with people training, I don't think I would be a good trainer, because I think that people would let me down, like the people that I'm training. I think
Yeah.
I could be a good teacher and I could teach you how to do what it is that you're doing. But like, you have to have a little bit more of an intimate relationship with your client. And if your client doesn't show up that night, you know what I mean, then
Yeah.
it pisses
The
you
thing
off.
that
You know what I
the
mean?
thing that's interesting about training is they never really have to show up for me, because I have a billing policy where if they don't show up, I still get paid. So
Sure.
it's more about, like, with training, you can only ever cheat yourself. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's the type of thing where if somebody's skipping workouts or not showing up, then that Sunday when we check in, we're gonna have to talk about that. We're gonna have to talk about why. And I think that's the type of thing where 4 weeks go by and that happens, I can't take your money next month because we're not training together anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's the type of thing that, with the accountability net, it always goes back to if somebody actually wants it or not. And anybody that really wants it, they can't wait to show up. Like, they're outside, they're knocking on the door, they can't wait to show up, because they want it so bad. So I feel like that's the type of thing that, when people aren't lying and they're being real about it, because the thing I've noticed is a lot of people feel like they should want to work out and they might not. Like, they might look in the mirror, they might like the way they look, they might like the way they feel, and there's a little bird somewhere telling them you're not good enough. And
Mhm.
that's not true. They might be all right. You know what I mean? So it might be the type of thing that they might not need a lot of extra diet and exercise because their body might be in a good position. They might need to focus their energies elsewhere. So I think the thing about training is it's the most helpful for the people that are the worst at it right now. So the people that really are struggling with their body, are really struggling with their mind, don't have a place to bring their aggression, don't have a place to kind of charge their batteries, don't have a way to make the change that they want to change when they look at the mirror, which is why they probably don't spend a lot of time looking at the mirror and that whole kind of arrangement that goes with that. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I don't answer the phone when I'm in the gym. So
Yeah.
like, unless someone texts
Nice.
me 911, that
Yeah.
hour is my hour. You
Right.
know what I mean? So like, and I try to go as hard as I can
Yeah.
in that hour. And some days I'm like, that was the fucking best workout. Like today, before I
Yeah.
did this, today was so I do push pull. So push one day, pull one day, and then I do this one. It's called legs athletic.
Okay.
So obviously push and pull, we could talk about them, but like on the athletic day,
Yeah.
I'll do like 20 minutes on the bike, 20 minutes on legs, and then like 20 minutes of cardio. Sometimes I just have uh an athletic day. So like today was Tuesday's just athletic day. So before I came here, I did like, I don't know, 10 miles on the bike, and
Nice.
did some other stuff in the gym, my stretching, whatever like that. I went home, I got cleaned up, I ate, and I came here. But it's that dedication of, it has to become part of like your life. Like, and for me, it's a lot of mental health that's involved with that. And I feel stronger. Like today, me and Austin were carrying in sheetrock to a building, and we were just like throwing it in, like, yeah, I mean, just like loading it in and doing whatever. And it's good. You know what I mean? Like maybe a year ago, I wasn't able to do it at that pace or whatever like that. And I,
Yeah. You
I
feel
look
it.
at it like I'm 52 years old and I have a bunch of guys that work for me that are 25 years old.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you gotta like, you got to go to
Yeah.
the gym. You got to have that discipline. So this way, when it's time to throw down, you can throw down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. And like, that sounds like a powerful moment where you feel yourself becoming stronger, more agile, more endurant, even though you are, you know, aging like we all are at the same time. And I feel like that's another lie you see go around is people say like after you hit like 40 or 50, you just have to become weak and you lose your range of motion. And I think a lot of these thoughts and these narratives are very powerful where, if you believe that you have to become weaker, then your body's going to reflect that belief. And I think that's where a lot of people will start to train with less intensity. They'll start to take a little weight off the bar. They'll start to visualize that elbow crackling a little bit, and then it'll happen. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that's the type of thing where use it or lose it really applies, because why build athleticism in the youth to just neglect it? You know, when we pass something like the middle point. Because it's like, if we're really going to live to be 80, 90 years old, something like 40 is the halfway point, you know? And like a halfway point should be a peak. Most people don't feel like they're near their peak at 40 or 50 though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's something that the human is possible that we could potentially do, excuse me. You know what I mean? So I
Guys
think
like
that's something too.
guys like Jack LaLanne were like pulling tugboats with their teeth and swimming
Yeah.
in channels when they were 90 years old. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Like
So
freaks, like absolute freaks.
he's an outlier, and I like to talk about outliers a little bit because I think that they're
Yeah.
interesting. But if you're just working at a desk all day, like I'm a little bit more of a physical job, but if you're working at a desk all day, you should
Yeah.
be motivated to like. But what happens is you get lazy and you don't want to go to the gym or you don't want to do any of these things, and you find yourself where all you're doing is like the same rut, the same routine, the same like I'm gonna wake up in the morning, I'm gonna have coffee, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna do my 9 to 5. Nothing exciting is gonna happen whatsoever, and then time goes by and time, they say time is the thief of youth. So, and it really is. Every
Technically.
day you get a little older. You know what I mean?
Technically.
But
Yeah.
you have to do that. Do you find your clients that you have, and we're not talking about specific clients, but do you find that your clients are older or younger?
Um, I've noticed because of the mirroring effect, most people are around my age, around are typically me, you know. So
Mhm.
it's typically males around my age. It's typically people that kind of talk like I do, or that receive a message in a way that I give it. Because I've noticed it's usually either a past, a future, or a present me. I think in a sense, because I've noticed that's where we'll really be able to connect hard. Where maybe I just am able to see the aspects that overlap, but it's like, I'll train somebody who might be in their 70s, and I feel like this could potentially be, a future version of me because we connect so well. And then sometimes there's like, I'll train somebody who's maybe younger and we don't have a ton in common, but then we'll find where it's still that passion for training, or it's that desire to mold the physique, or to tap into something like, how to control that pain response, or that fear response. Because I think that's one of the things I can speak to that I didn't anticipate, was when I started training people. It's always the people that you can't judge a book by its cover. There's a lot of people you wouldn't expect. They show up with a lot of fire. They show up with a lot of, they're ready to do 200 reps on a movement that most of us can do 20 on.
Hmm.
And then you're just, wow, where did this come from? You know what I mean? So like you were saying, outliers, like there's a lot of people with energy to invest and spend. And I think that's where I've trained everybody from 11 years old to 77 years old. That's the range right now. But I do think that it becomes more applicable the more that I've done and I've lived. So, like, for example, I haven't personally run a marathon. So when I trained somebody that their goal was to run a marathon, the first thing I said, in all honesty, was, if I was you, I would find somebody who's done it, because I haven't done it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? And I think that level of honesty, hopefully they appreciate it. That's why they stuck around for a while. And it was actually about that problem solving method to accomplish the goal that feels massive, But I think that's the type of thing where I do my best to try what people need from me first. So I had a client that wanted to learn some boxing, and I wanted to figure out how to help them condition their wrists, their knuckles, and their hands to become a weapon, and not actually injure the hand in the process. So I think that what I did, because I play guitar and I do a couple of things that require dexterity, is I ran an experiment on myself for about 8 weeks. And I used a knuckle conditioning program where I would do knuckle push-ups on increasingly hard surfaces 3 times a week. And I would, kind of think about the recovery window. I would do ice buckets, but it was the type of thing that I had no idea how to actually do it, and I didn't know if it would work or not. So I had to at least try it before I was comfortable instructing somebody else to do it. And even then, it's the type of thing where I had to lean on people with 10, 15, 20 years of experience,
Mhm.
because I don't have that. You know what I mean? So I think that's where moments like that become. I've noticed, like, to be completely honest, the person I can help fastest is the person that has the same goal as me. But the
Right.
person that I can help most, I think, is the person that respects what I've done, in the sense where they recognize how it applies, because it's just eating the whale. When I was 17 and I was 104 pounds, right now was my goal, you know, and that's the type of thing that I can confidently say felt impossible. It felt impossible. It was daunting. You know, I would tell people and they would laugh at me, you know, and I remember that would happen. I'd say,
Right.
I think I want to bodybuild, you know, I think I want to get out of the stands and try to get on the stage, you know, and I think
Mm.
that's where, you know, I noticed that it was sometimes very positive. The people that were in my corner would be like, you know, you can do it, you know, and the people that would come out and, you know, use that as an opportunity to attack me, I noticed as well. But it's the type of thing that, ironically, those are people that karmically nature will send to me now to ask me for help, and then it puts me in a position to say, you know, do I want to try to get revenge on them or do I want to help them? I think it's always very spiritual to take the high road, and
Of
I can
course.
feel where something like the gym, if somebody's behind me on the path, if I can reach a hand down and help them, then magically this hand will come down and help me reach my next step.
Sure.
So you kind of give what you get type of a deal. So I'll admit it's probably selfishly driven because, you know, I want to get good things. So I give good things. But,
A lot of
you
what's
know,
interesting is a lot of it's your ego that gets in the way.
yeah,
So, and
probably.
fear. So, like, if you're
Yeah.
pushing, like, you're like, my goal is to ride the bike 10 miles tonight, and you get to like mile 9,
Yeah.
and you're like, fuck, I could just fucking stop right here. You know what I mean? The video I was watching is over. I still
Yeah.
got
It's
a mile to
basically
whatever.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, you got up, but
Yeah.
it's almost 10, right? Oh, I'm
The
9.2.
bargaining, you start bargaining with yourself.
Start bargaining with yourself. And
Yeah.
that's your ego getting in the way. It's like, you know what? You're
Yeah.
good enough. You don't have to do this. You're
Yeah.
better than the guy next to you. You see the guy and you look at the guy next to you and you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
that guy, he's only at 2 miles. I'm smoking the shit out of him. And you look at that guy on the other
Yeah.
side and you're like, I'm smoking him too. But that's your like that's that path of least resistance. And that's that fear.
Yeah.
Another fear you have, and
Looking for a way
I
out.
I've overcome this fear is I'm in the process of overcoming it. Let's say
Yeah.
that is you're pushing yourself, you're pushing yourself, you're pushing yourself, and you're afraid that you're just gonna like fall over and pass out.
Or
So
the fear of death, the fear of going
yeah.
down. Yeah.
So what I've done now
Yeah.
is I work out at a gym that's connected to our local hospital, and I'm like, all right, they have the defibrillator machine thing over here.
Yeah.
They have a nurse that's there all the time or whatever it
Mhm.
is, you know. So if I fall over, somebody can somebody can save me. And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
become that mental thing to say, I want to kind of push to the next level. I want to put 10 more pounds on the
Yeah.
barbell and do it. But I was in a year ago, I only weighed 136 pounds. This morning I weighed
Yeah.
166 pounds.
Nice. Nice. That's
So
probably solid weight. Like weight you want.
well, it's good and it's bad because
Is it a mix?
it's a mix, yeah. So like one of the things I have to start working on, and I hate to say a New Year's resolution because they never
Oh,
work,
yeah.
but as we
Well,
get
they can.
closer to the new
They
year,
can. They
you
can
know,
work.
yeah, I'm interested in
They
more
can.
diet and doing kind of stuff like that. And I know you preach a little bit of diet stuff too. So what do you say to a new person who maybe they want to gain the right weight, or maybe they want to stay at the right weight or whatever. So what do you say if somebody says to you, hey, I go to the gym, I'm getting okay results. I know a lot of this is diet. What's step one?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good question. Step one is an accurate measurement. So for 3 full days, you have to record everything that you put into your body and how much of it you need an accurate snapshot. That is step
Right.
one. That's where most people go wrong. That's where if there's not an accurate starting snapshot, it's impossible to do any accurate manipulation. You know,
Right.
and that right there will usually show it to you because you'll be like, I didn't drink enough water. I ate way too much of that. I didn't eat enough of that. Wow, I didn't realize that's what you know what I mean? So like you
Yeah.
see it on paper and it's different than what you think. And then the gap between your brain and reality starts to close. And then once your mind and your body fully align, then all you have to do is align the spirit. And then once all three are aligned, it feels like, you know, a lazy river. Life just gets easy.
There's a big spiritual component to what we're doing, to working
Yeah.
out and to doing that. Do you talk
Yeah.
about that with your clients too? Do you give them you have to connect mind, body, and soul to what we're doing here today?
I try to kind of use that as a foundation, but I think that what I'll do is I really will cater it specifically. So I know different people seem to be very driven by different things. So like some people, they're really in tune with that and they want to work on that. And some people don't really care about that. And I think that the wording and the message does matter sometimes, but I think that because that is the way that I speak when I put out my message and my content, when I'm honestly describing my own thought process,
Right.
I think typically that's why it's like a bat in a cave. Like the only people that that's going to resonate with and bring towards me and connect me with are going to be people that also speak that language, hopefully.
Right.
You know, where that's going to be like an echolocation type of a deal.
What's
So,
interesting is Rob ran like 105 Ks,
yeah.
right? And the 5K had one stipulation. The 5K had to have a medal.
I'd have a
They
medal.
had to be awarded a medal at the end of the 5K.
Yeah.
Right. So he has hundreds of these.
Well, the quick story is in one minute, my wife joined the gym with her friends and they all ran this Rocky run. It's the one they run in Philly. It's a 5K. They run in front of the art museum, around a little loop down the river, and then right up the art museum steps. And she got this big ass Rocky medal. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm going to get one of those. And next year I ran other races, and the next year, and I got that medal like 3 or 4 times. Because it was something I hate running, but I figure, well, it's probably good for me. And let me see if I can maybe, if I figure I did like 100 of them, I'll figure out if I really like to do it. And I don't like to run, but I was able to do 100, right? So I guess that's the thing for me. It's just that I wanted to push myself.
That's a lot. And it's earned. Like I imagine when you look at the medal and you feel the medal, it's different than if you just went and bought one from the store because you put your real time, your real sweat into that.
Because everyone has a story to it. Like there's one of them we did was a pumpkin run, and you got and it was like it turned into a Tough Mudder, believe it or not. It was a 5K Tough Mudder because it was on a farm in the winter and it rained for like a week, and then you had to carry a pumpkin the whole time. And if if you ran the 5K with the pumpkin and it survived, they gave you they gave you the Tough Pumpkin Award. So I mean, look, you know what? I mean, everyone does things for a different reason. I wanted to do it to see if it was something that would be good for me, and health wise it was not bad for me, although my knees probably a little worse to wear for it, but my knees will be fine. If I did 100 of those, I know my knees will be fine probably for the rest of my life, because if I was able to work them out that hard every weekend, I actually had weekends that I did 2 in one weekend. I actually did 2 5Ks in one weekend. I said I got to see if I can do this. Like midway through, I'm like, I think I can do it. I'm going to do one. And so one was at 8 in the morning and the other one was like 2:30. The 2:31 hurt so badly. I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Rob, do you find yourself that it's like part of an addicted personality to like do something like I need to go to the gym every day, or I need to like I'm addicted to like, oh, look, I can lift a little bit more. I just hit a PR and this. I'm addicted. Was it like that?
I did it for one reason. Here's why I did it. I did it because I just wanted to do something that I didn't think I could ever really do. I thought I could never run one of those races. Right? I'm like, let me just do one of them and see if I like it. And you know what? The getting up early in the morning is not the greatest thing in the world to feel. No one wants to get up early in the morning, but there's nothing more magical than driving and seeing the sun come up over this mountain in Pennsylvania somewhere when you're running this race. Or sometimes it's beautiful weather, and sometimes it's raining, and sometimes it's snowing, and I've done them all. Sometimes you're running on the up and down the Washington, the Delaware River, and they have these little tiny things that you could step on and break your ankle. They're like little nuts that fall from the tree. So you're like literally trying not to die while you're running on this little narrow path.
It's dangerous.
So.
But that's like, I think that I find that to be fascinating. My friend John Robinson, who's going to be, Rob, you'll be happy. We have another person that's doing the Appalachian Trail with us, who's an experienced Appalachian Trail hiker.
I am not doing the Appalachian Trail with you, so.
I know that, but John will make sure I don't die. But at any rate, he did the Pennsylvania side, and his thing was funny. He ran a 5K. He goes, Ray, I ran one 5K. He goes, I ran it. They gave me the T-shirt. I'll never run one of them motherfuckers again. He goes, that's all I needed to do. I did it, and it worked out. But now he's like a man of the woods. You know what I mean? And he'll go out. He's done the trail. He's hiked all of the Pennsylvania portion of the Appalachian Trail. That's a very, very difficult hike. It's a lot of different.
Yeah. So if you're doing that, you're in some amazing shape, because he probably would even left out to tell you was he probably did the 5K in like 23 minutes and like, okay, I need something a little nicer. I need something a little more challenging.
He did it in 28, and then I asked him.
That's pretty fast, by the way.
That's pretty
so
fast.
You know, for the record,
right? Yeah.
28-minute, 3.2 miles. That's pretty impressive. You're running the entire time. There's never a point where you're jogging. You're always running at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I have a friend. Her name is Lisa. I like her to get her on the podcast too. Beast of an athlete. And she did one of those Philadelphia, like the Philly 5K or whatever the heck it was. She was late. She had to park her car and she had to run. And as she was running, the group was leaving to run the race. And so she was behind them and she still fucking finished like third in the race.
Yeah,
that's a beast of a fucking
She probably had
athlete.
about a 2 minute, they probably had a 2 or 3 minute head start by the time she got everything that she needed to. She probably needed to get her bib.
Yeah,
and all that shit.
Him.
So she like, give me my bib quick.
Yep, and she fucking smoked him. And I like that kind of stuff. And like with John was like, look, we're gonna go. We want to hike the trail heads up. We don't want to we're gonna just put our head down and we're gonna power through it. He says there's a lot to look at, there's a lot to see. And I said, so how did you train for this? And what he did was he did like rucksacking, where he put the backpack on with 30 pounds in it, and he would march, or hike like 4 miles from his house and 4 miles back. And he did that. And he kind of that was like part of like his training thing. But he said when he got out there in the thing, he said the New Jersey's a lot easier than the Pennsylvania side. His big issues were they didn't run into a lot of wildlife. They ran into some snakes. They ran into some stuff like that. He said, but what you do run into is a lot of people. And he said some of those people are kind of odd. So he had some interesting stories about some of the people that he thinks kind of live on the trail. But for me, it's a goal. I'm going to hike to this. I think it's like 10 miles. I have this app that he told me to get. I bought it today. I'm going to hike to this nice hotel. I'm going to hike there. I think it's like 10, 12 miles. I'm going to enjoy the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to go to a nice hotel with whoever decides to come with me. If it's John, my cousin Tim, then I'm going to hike from there to the next point the next day. And then I've hiked the Appalachian Trail. Do you know what I mean? Like I did it. That's like a personal goal of mine. I don't need to be the hike the Appalachian Trail in the fastest amount of time possible, but that's a different outlook than someone like Carrie Mandel. When I told her that I was going to do this, her response was, I think you could do all 72 miles in one day.
Yeah, because that's more challenging.
She's an animal and she does triathlons. That's why she's an animal.
She's an Iron Man and all that, but that's an outlier. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you probably think when you're training you and you're not training somebody else, you probably think a lot about it in the exact same way too, where you're like, I can go this a little bit further. I know I'm supposed to run 5 miles today and I'm supposed to do it in 50 minutes, but today I'm going to do it in 48, whatever your number is. I think, did you think of it? Do you train yourself not differently than you train others, but maybe you hold yourself accountable in a different manner than maybe you hold a client accountable? But I think it's harder to hold a client accountable, but what are your thoughts on that?
That's a very fair question. I think, traditionally I was the only coach that I trusted. And I realized that there was a kind of a hypocrisy and a bit of a logical paradox in that I didn't know enough. So I had to get information. I needed help. I needed mentorship. Right. I needed someone to help me. So I got to the point where I felt confident enough to navigate the information and the literature and the gym to be able to teach myself these things and kind of find a handful of teachers. But that's where a really important piece of it all for me is not being a hypocrite, you know what I mean? And not asking someone to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do or that I haven't done, because I know that I get very activated when somebody does that, you know what I mean, to me. So I feel like that's where I'm very picky and I have a really tough time letting someone help me with my body. So if I want to train me potentially, I have to establish a very high degree of trust and actually earn that. So I think that's where, up until about a couple months ago, my goal was to train myself the way I train other people. But that's where I had to be honest and admit that even though my plan was to not do what you're describing, which is basically let it creep a little bit and break the plan because I feel like I can. And I think that that's the way that I view that, is breaking plan and breaking program. And the way that I approach stuff like this is typically militant. And that means that if the plan is the plan, you do the plan. And then after 6 weeks of running the plan, you look at the results. And if the plan needs adjustment, you adjust the plan then. You don't adjust the plan while you're running it ever. And I think that's the approach that I take and I execute on. So I've finally found a coach that I feel I can trust, that I can hand over, my keys to, and really just let program me, and I found a guy, I forget exactly what state he's in. I got to shout him out because he's my new coach. He's on Instagram. His name's the Northeast Beast. And I'm very excited to work with him. And this is where whatever he programs for me, as long as my instincts don't kick in when I read the program, and as long as it doesn't feel absolutely wrong, I will run it and I will trust it. And whatever the program is, I will just run it. And then when we check in every week, that's where some of the faith kicks in, because I think the reason why I'm going to let him coach me is because he is where I'd like to be. And I have to give credit where it's due, because he earned his way into that position. So if I want to take my next step, I have to truly ask somebody that's taken that step already to help me with it, which that's why I think I haven't gotten on stage and actually competed, because my goal this entire time has been to compete. And I think if I'm being honest, I've gotten my body to the point where I could have put it on a stage and started to play the game a little bit and get in the scene and learn the posing a little bit ago, because now I'm at the point where it's like, by no means am I deep in the rabbit hole, and am I, a phenomenal bodybuilder at like 150 pounds, because it's like, there's 270-pound guys walking around.
Sure.
But like, I do feel as though something like my body dysmorphia and my own willingness to honestly risk my own health means that I will program myself in a way that's more dangerous than I'll program somebody else. And I think that's where I need a coach to step in, because my issue that I found with myself is the programs that I give myself, I wouldn't give other people. I wouldn't be comfortable giving them to other people. And that's where I have to ask myself honestly why. And it's because I was entering a place of danger that I really shouldn't have. So I think that's where letting go and handing this over to a coach is going to be helpful, because if he says, this isn't safe or this is safe, that will really validate it. And that will show me where maybe I have a blind spot, because that's what I realized is there is a blind spot with the self. You mentioned the word addiction earlier, and I think that's something that pops in with stuff like this. So it's important to have some type of accountability net, but also a pair of eyes that are a little more objective, that are a little more rooted in reality and less rooted in what you see at the moment,
Well, one way you could trust this person is you vetted the person. So you could say, all right, this is the guy that I vetted. Number two is everybody, no matter what you do, and I've talked about this on past podcasts before too, and I'm a big fan of mentoring, either being a mentor, which is great, but also having a mentor and surrendering and being coachable. That's hard for people. A lot of people just say like,
it is.
Fuck Ray or fuck Rob, fuck Andrew. Yeah. These guys don't know what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And in the meantime, that person may have something to share with you, but they can't share it with you because you're not allowing them to share it with you. So I
think that's an internal dialogue I've noticed, that it can be negative and it can be difficult, but what I think is activating there is nobody knows a person's body better than themselves. And I think that's where people do have kind of an expertise on their own body. And there are a lot of false gurus. Like there are a lot of people that would love to run experiments on you and that are willing to watch those fail, and they won't admit it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that will give half-tested data to people and that don't even have the results they're claiming to be able to produce. And I think that's a big problem, is there's a lot of people that are helping people with money that haven't made it for themselves. There's a lot of people helping people with fitness that haven't done it for themselves. There's a lot of people helping people with things that don't have any measurable or provable results in these things.
Are there people that are better teachers versus better doers? That's a question that I've tried to
It's a fair question.
answer. You know what I mean? And I don't know the answers. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this. And I got triggered in thinking this. I'm a big Formula One racing fan.
Nice.
And there was one of the race car drivers who was retired. And they said, "And how's your son doing? We know your son is younger. He's like 15 or 16. He wants to be a driver. And like who's training him or who's doing whatever." And he said, "Well, we have a trainer, but I really tell him what to do." And he said, "Because I was in Formula One, but the guy who's the trainer never was." So I thought about that for a second. And I said, maybe the guy didn't reach the pinnacle of motorsports, right? Which Formula One is. Yeah. But maybe that guy has something to offer. I don't know what exactly. And maybe he's never experienced what the dad has experienced. Yeah. But maybe this guy has something to offer. However, there's a lot of people out there with a really good salesman with a lot of bullshit. Yeah. And you have to be able to vet that out. And if you can vet that stuff out, then you'll be successful, right? So that's how I look at it. I look at it like, if I can learn something from somebody, great. If I can't and I see that they're full of shit, I give them the opportunity. But then if I see that they're full of shit, then I'm like, you know what? This guy's full of shit. He doesn't know fucking what he's talking about. But then there might be other people that think that he's a guru.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't know. I've been to a lot of like real estate seminars where you get guys that are teaching you how to buy houses. And maybe they were shady as shit when they bought their houses and raising capital or doing whatever. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of like, it was like my friend Ron, he went to, you have to know who Grant Cardone is. Grant Cardone is like a real estate guy, right? So it was $2,000 to go to the seminar. So maybe there was like 50 people at the seminar. So there, Grant Cardone, he makes $100,000 right there.
Right.
So there's expenses, there's speakers, there's this or that. All right, fine. Then the second day, I had told my friend Ron, I said, "Ron, you're fucking stupid to go to this thing." No, I'm going to go, blah, blah, blah. Day 2, he says that there's maybe like 10 people walking around and their name tags. Everybody had like a white name tag, but there was like 10 people walking around. They had a gold name tag. So he said, "Hey, why do you have a gold name tag?" And he goes, "Oh, I bought Grant's Cardone's next level up or whatever." Well, how much was that? Well, that was $10,000. And Ron's like, $10,000. He's like, but that's the thing. So now it makes you want to feel like, and I don't know if Grant Cardone's full of shit or not. I have no idea. But like, it makes you see these other people and it makes you want. So if Grant Cardone sold 10 of them for $10,000, it's another $100,000. And that weekend he made $200,000. I don't know who in that group was successful. I have no idea. And I don't know what knowledge they garnered or what they couldn't have gotten for free on the internet.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to look at. And like, I honestly don't know him. I haven't sat through the thing, but I would be shocked if he delivered $200,000 worth of value. And I think that's a concept that people need to tune into, is value. Right. And I think that's where I would be shocked if he delivered $2,000 worth of value. You know what I mean? And I think that's the type of thing where you sense that probably wasn't going to happen. Your boy was willing to take the risk. So he was like, let's see, you know what I mean? Let's take the shot. And I think that's where my gut tells me, if you look closely enough at it, he's showing you how he makes his money. And anybody that can really see it, he's showing you that he lies, and that's how he makes his money. But I think you have to know where to look. And it's tough because, like you said, where's the verifiable? My whole problem is a guy that has as much money as he has, he's not, like, there's a reason why you don't see Elon Musk on your news feed begging you to buy a $2,000 class.
Yeah.
He's working on $1 billion shit. You know what I mean? And like, that's the thing, is you got, like, when you know what a real billionaire looks like, anybody impersonating one won't stand up. It won't hold up to you.
Sure.
So it's like these imposters and these illusions, and it's the ability to see through an illusion. So it's like, if Jesus was charging a ticket every time he performed a miracle, he probably wouldn't be talked about right now. You know what I mean? So that's another thing I go back to, which is like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say that he doesn't have valuable information, but where's the accountability net? So if I go give $2,000 and I don't make anything, do I get my money back or no? And that's where it's, you know, I'm militant with this shit. So I feel like, you know, not to go to a different direction, but I feel like accountability should be militant. So I think that, you know, if somebody pays the money for healthcare and then something bad happens to their health, they should get the money back. I think if somebody goes and pays for rehab and then they relapse, they should get their money back, because that's not what the results are. And people aren't tuned into results. And that's where I've noticed that there's this entitlement where if I can't actually deliver the results with your body, I shouldn't feel entitled to play with it. I shouldn't feel entitled to touch it at all.
Right.
Because it's so important that somebody needs to know what they're doing. It's like surgery. There's a reason why you only want surgery done by a surgeon.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But the problem is, in the real world, if you can't afford it and you need that surgery done, there's a reason why there's YouTube videos on how to perform surgery on yourself. Because there's somebody out there tonight that's going to perform surgery on themselves because they don't want to die. You know what I mean? And they can't afford the surgery. So it's like, I don't know, man. There's two sides to it. But at the same time, like, I don't enjoy watching people profit on other people's ability to be lied to. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I see with something like him.
That's interesting. I look at it like everybody has you have a guarantee of opportunity, but you don't necessarily have a guarantee of outcome. Right. So like the opportunity is, I'm going to hire Andrew to be my trainer. Okay. Right. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to do whatever. I might not follow that plan to the T. Maybe I did follow it to the T. Maybe, but the outcome wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. So I need to tweak the plan a little bit. We need to do it for what do you do? Like 8 weeks, and then you review the plan again, right?
Do like a 2-month minimum, usually 2 to 6 month working periods. But like, I've been lucky. Everybody that signed on hasn't signed off. So there's been 100% retention. There's been 100% retention so far. Yeah. It's a good sign.
How many clients do you have?
You know? I don't want to jinx it. About 5. Yeah. Okay. I think, you know, it's tough because it's like, I call it a team and it's people on my team, but it is, there's 5 people that are trusting me with their fitness right now.
And I think that is your goal to grow that, and then is your goal to like have your own gym or have your own facility? Is that like the direction that you want to go in?
My goal is to build a team, and I think the next step for me is to be able to pay a slightly more expensive monthly rent to get us all into like a pretty nice gym, because I think there's some nice gyms in the area that are more locally owned, that they are a higher ticket cost. It's like a boutique style gym where it's really specialized, really nice. I think that's where the next thing I would like to do would be to get us all into somewhere like that. And that's where, you know, if it makes sense to own one, that would be really cool. But I think that I really do see myself as in that role. And I think that's what I really enjoy doing. And I like having it set up where I can give somebody a plan that I am confident will work, and that I can wait for them to need me. So I can be in a reactive space where I can sit and I can basically do what I need to do, run my plan. And then while I do it, help people with their plan. So I think I feel that it's very scalable. Like, I feel like I could coach 50, 60, 100 people with this model. And it would, you know, it would take a whole Sunday to check in with everybody, but it would be worth it. And I'd still be able to get my meals and sleep in. And so that's where I think right now I'd have to feel myself hit capacity. Because I remember when I was training at LA Fitness, I felt that the most people I could train in a week was about 40. That was the most that I could really reliably get and keep on my schedule. And that was when I was the only trainer in the gym and there wasn't actually functioning sales staff, you know?
Right.
And that's where, you know, I could feel that was the most I could probably run. And, you know, I could feel what that was kind of on a dollar value and different things like that. And I could feel that's where it made sense to take that next step, because my goal with working at LA Fitness was to really get experience, you know, and work with people and be a trainer for real, you know, and do that, because I hadn't felt like I had done that yet. And I think that was where I felt that, you know, it was a really good experience, because once again, trying to do it the way that I live it, like LA Fitness is where I made a lot of my own gains. That's where my cousin brought me in. So since I trained there for 6 years, that's where I wanted to be a trainer to start. But I think, you know, I honestly, the way that I have it is I would like to build the team, and I honestly am very focused on what I would like to do as well. So I would like to compete, and I would like to move forward, and I would like to get to a point where honestly everybody on my team has their own team. That's the way I'd like to run it. And like I'd like to get it to the point where if it's not fitness, it's something else. You know what I mean? Where I organize organizers. I think that would be, because that's the natural eventual step in the path, where once you crush all these goals for yourself, people notice, and then it's time to help them, you know? So I think that's where you can set up a business or set up a way to, you know.
That's interesting. To organizing organizers. I like that.
Yeah.
Where I work out, I used to work out at a much smaller gym, and unfortunately they went out of business. It was my daughter worked there. It was a really, really great place to work out. I go now to like this large commercial gym that's affiliated with our hospital. They have about 7,500 members. So it's a really, really big gym.
Big.
And they have a lot of trainers, and the trainers, it's very interesting. I was looking at the trainers, I was reading about the trainers, and they'll have a trainer who specifically specializes in golf. And that guy's going to train you to do the physical fitness if you were going to go be a golf player.
That's cool.
They have older trainers, I guess, that could relate to older people. They have people that do like a military style boot camp kind of training.
Nice.
All this kind of stuff. So I worked out with this guy, Ryan, and I wanted to incorporate in some like, I call them like top 5 exercises, and they're like squats, deadlift, rows, shoulder press, and there was one more that I can't remember. And just these big compound exercises adding into my other. So we sat together, we worked out together, we came up with a little bit of a plan. He threw some other ideas in there, and I took some of those ideas and I ran with them, and other ideas I kept from my other gym, and I kind of put together this thing. So now you get like a free training session like every other month. So I'm gonna pick another guy off the wall, and I'm gonna say pictures of trainers, and I'm gonna say, hey, this is what I'm working on, and what input do you have from there? My big goal is in January, I'm going to train with this Kerry Mandel, and we're going to do really work on my endurance training.
Nice.
And really work on getting ready for this Appalachian Trail and getting ready for I'm gonna in January, I'm signing up for the Mercer County Triathlon. Nice. I suck at swimming, but I'm gonna have her train me. I'm gonna follow whatever the whatever the deal says. I'm going to give in to doing that. And it took me a while to find myself in that spot, because when I first got into even owning my own business, I thought, I've failed and I've succeeded on my own terms. Okay, that's great. But you know what? I probably could have learned, and I've learned a lot of stuff along the way. But if I was mentored, and by the time I found a mentor and kind of bought into the whole mentorship thing, time had passed, and I was often thought, well, if I went back to like the first business that I owned, and I had little accidental success in that, what if I had somebody who said, hey, listen, this is really how you set up your bank account, or this is really how you do this? And I think that I definitely think that there's value to that. How would you describe your training style? Is it like really holding someone accountable, or is it like, hey, I'm laying this out for you? If you don't do it, then you're the only person you're cheating is you. How would you describe your training style?
That's fair. That's a good question. I think it's tough to analyze the self truly, but I think that, because I know what I hope and I aim for my training style to be, and I think that I like to think that that's where it really lands. But I think that the word that I would use would be honesty and like real. Like I have to keep it 100% real, and I have to keep it 100% honest, and that's why someone would pick me, would be because they would want truth, and they would want something that when they go and test it tomorrow in their life, it stands up and it holds up, and I think that's where the pillar is, and that's where the foundation is. So I think that I'm less concerned about anything other than if it's true and if it's real. So
I like the fact that I like the fact that you try a lot of stuff on yourself. Yeah. And that was one of the things that you had sent me when we were texting back and forth, and we were talking about that, where you were like, now you sleep during the day and you're awake at night because you're experimenting, off hour experiment. What are you doing?
Yeah. Right now I'm running a nocturnal schedule for a few reasons, and I think like
Okay.
it's something that I wanted to do. So what I'll notice is when I put my eye on something and I want to do something, then I'll find all these reasons to do it. So maybe I'm just coming up with all these reasons, but I feel like it will help me a lot with my music, and it feels like the right thing to do in terms of a spiritual offering. And it also feels like something that will help me a lot with a group of people that are neglected. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I think that people that work nights, they work nights while everybody else is asleep, while the majority of people are asleep.
Mhm.
So I think that I've noticed, not to get weird, but I've noticed there's like a day world and like a night world. And they're
Of
like two
course.
little worlds that exist kind of side by side where it's really difficult to really be a part of both,
Right.
unless it's that dusk phase where you're going to sleep if you're a night person or when you're waking up if you're a day person. And I think that I realized that I haven't spent a lot of time in that world by choice. And I think that, I wanted to tune into it because the place that it really started was I study magic. I study magicians and mystical people. And
Okay.
somebody that pops up a lot is Rasputin. And I think a rumor and a thing that's known about Rasputin is that he was able to control his pupils manually. So he could
Mhm.
look into somebody's eyes and make his pupils dilate all the way and then make them go all the way down into a pin needle. And it was the type of thing that was it proved a very high degree of mastery over the body. And I think it's the type of thing like Wim Hof being able to, do what he does with the ice. And it's like
Right.
this what seems like a miracle. It sounds almost impossible. And I believe that he was able to do it. So I've been hunting for this way to do it. And I found the Tibetan eye chart, luckily, because one of my friends sent it to me, who's a mentor spiritually in a sense. And I realized that through studying it, the pupil dilates and doesn't dilate in response to light. And I think the eye has an adaptable sensitivity to light. So I decided I wanted to improve my night vision and also attempt to manually control my pupil. So that's where this kind of started. And then I realized that not only that would probably become more possible and I would understand that better, but then all these other little doors opened. And there was this, all these reasons popped up on why to do it. So I think that to sum it all back up, like if there's somebody that works nights right now and they're awake during the night and they sleep during the day, it can be very difficult to get your meals and workouts in when everything's closed when you're awake, or when you're sleeping when everything's open. And I think that it's the same challenges that everybody faces with fitness, which is what's keeping me out of the gym, what's keeping the food out of my mouth, what's keeping me from the program. Because I can give anybody the program now, and the real work kicks in when what about the program was difficult. So I think that's where I realized there's a group of people, and it was through my own experience where when I was working at LA Fitness, there was somebody that I trained, and I'm not going to say her name, but she had to train at 4 a.m.
Mm.
And there's not a lot of people that I feel like I lost or that I couldn't help. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I'll be honest, I felt that I could not help her with her goal, and we did not reach her goal together. And it's something that bothers me a lot.
Sure.
And I think that a big piece of it was the fact that she had to work at 4 a.m. and it was very difficult to do that scheduling because I was at the gym until close the night before.
Yeah.
And it was when I became the only trainer that it became unmanageable for me. And I started to break my own program, which is a problem because I can't comfortably instruct anybody if I'm messing my program up. So that's the foundation of me being able to teach. So I felt that I wasn't able to help her. And I remember that. And I think that's also a piece of this because she was a night worker and she would want to work out right before she went to bed at like 5 a.m. And she had a new daughter. And the reason why she wanted to improve her health was, for her daughter. And I still have her contact information. And my goal after all this is to actually reach back out. But I know that if she's in that position, there's a lot of people in that position that it's very difficult to do something like schedule because not to go deep down the rabbit hole, but our entire calendar and everything is set up for the day. It's not set up for the night, so it's harder to adapt to it. And that's where in my own experimentation, I can feel it. There's all of this resistance. It becomes more difficult to plan the meals, the workouts, the phone calls, everything because it's a different schedule. So I think the same way that somebody has to live it to be able to train you, if there's a lot of people that are night people and there's a night world, there might be a night trainer that's needed for a group of people. And I think that's where I might not have to live this way forever, but I've never lived this way before. And I'm feeling every single day I do it, I'm learning things. And I think that it's the type of thing that even just the ability to meet night people. If I'm asleep at night, how do I meet the night people that are awake at night?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't do it unless I leave a little message for them that they find, and then we play ping pong with a text or something. But it's like, I don't know, it goes back to the fundament that's just living it. So it's like, I like dark music, I like dark art, I like darkness. And I think that there's a misconception that equates darkness with evil. And I think that it's rooted in a type of racism where dark is bad and light is good. And I think that it's woven into a lot of things. But I think that on a fundamental level, it's choosing darkness, it's choosing the night, and it's choosing to kind of offer the day hours to be asleep, to get access to the night hours, because I really want to write music about vampires and nerdy stuff like that. And I think it's how I might want to live. So I'm trying it out. But that's where it started, was the eye, trying to figure out the eye and how to get it. Because where I'm at with it now is I've improved my night vision a little bit. But the thing that keeps hitting me is I'll spend a night and then I'll go to the gym and there's all these really bright lights everywhere. So it'll be like, this simulated daytime environment. Right. And I think that's where you're not truly, living at night, because then your eyes don't have darkness to adapt to. So like one of the things that I'll do is I'll sit in a pitch black room with my eyes open for 10 minutes and let my eyes attempt to adapt to that darkness. And they won't be able to because there's not enough light, but it's the type of thing where after that, I'll notice at night, if I flick the lights off in my apartment, my eyes will adapt to the darkness just a little quicker, and it'll be able to catch the detail just a little faster or something like that. And I think now that I'm talking about it, it goes all the way back to when I was a child. I was a very fearful child. I was afraid of the dark my entire childhood. Right. And there's probably a part of my brain and body that still is. And I want to get past that, because I think I've finally tuned into the fact that fear is an alarm system for danger, and the dark is no more dangerous than the light. So why would I be more afraid of it? So I think it's the type of thing that's what I'm tuning into and also experimenting with.
I think a lot of that is primordial. I think a lot of that is like our ancestors thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
There were no lights. So at night, they were like, all right, we're going to light this fire and we're all going to kind of like band together because, maybe we're going to get attacked by a lion or by some warring tribe or by, whatever. And, in the cloak of darkness. I've only worked a handful of overnight shifts in my life. I absolutely hated it. I did not mind. I did not mind the money, but I don't know yeah, exactly. But I don't know if I could stay up all night. Now, if I was a police officer, I was a nurse or something like that. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's like your job. And that's probably your target market, is people along those lines who have to work. And there's a lot of people that work at night. There's a surprising amount of people. What have you noticed is different at night versus different during the day? Like, do you do your grocery shopping at night? Do you do like everything at night now?
I'll still do. So like grocery shopping and stuff like that I'll do when I wake up, because when I wake up around 5, there's a few hours before stuff closes at like 9. That's usually when I'll rock it, and that it feels transitional because it still feels like daytime shopping kind of. But that's where it's like I haven't found a 24-hour market, and it's also like there's a reason why maybe I'm still I don't know why I'll be honest, I'm probably still a little afraid to go buy groceries at Walmart at 3 a.m. versus go to Acme at 11 p.m.
Sure.
Because I think it's the type of thing where I can feel that I'm still a guest in the night and I'm new to it. And I think that anybody that is truly mastered it will be able to spot a guest,
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
I think that's where I'm trying to respect it in a way that I don't want to just dive head first in and act like it's mine. You know what I mean? And that's where it's kind of a dance where it's like, if I really found myself here, I've got to transition into the darkness versus just, go full immersion. But that's where I can feel, because like it also kicked in where a couple of weeks ago I was at my uncle's house, and he lives kind of on the border between Pennsylvania and Jersey, in like a woods kind of situation. And I could feel at night, I went out to like, I have a medical card, and I'll be honest, I smoke weed every day. Sure. It helps me a lot. So I went outside and I went to smoke my before bed joint, and then I could feel where I was like, I don't have the senses needed to protect me. I could feel it in that moment. And I think now that we're talking about it, that was the moment where something clicked, where I was like, I'm going to go home, and the next time I come here, I'm going to be able to handle this better, And I think,
well, there's definitely vulnerability, right? Where you feel vulnerable.
I wanted sharper seeing, and I wanted sharper hearing, because I had realized in that moment that my sight and my hearing it wasn't sensitive enough to hear or see if anything was around,
Right.
So if there was a bear, I wouldn't have seen it. It would have got me.
Oh, he would have got you for sure. Yeah. And that's what you have to think about. Like, look at an owl, or look at like animals that hunt at night. Well, they do it for a reason, like that little mouse thinks like, well, it's dark out and I'm okay. In the meantime, that owl or bird of prey or whatever has sharpened its skill set and sharpened its vision and sharpened its hearing to the point where it like that little mouse doesn't stand a chance kind of situation. And that's how you feel. You feel like on the opposite end of the stick, or where you should be. And I think that's interesting. Like I said, I had very few experiences at night. I did play in a band for a long time. And then, gigs would be done. But you see, like for me, it's interesting, right? Like the gig would be done at 1:00. Say we pack up everything, say 1:30, we're out of there, home at 2:00, depending on wherever we were playing, 2:30, whatever. Then we just come home, get a snack, and go to bed.
Yeah.
That's different, I think, than like if I had to work an overnight shift from like 11 to 8:30 or something along those lines. Or 11 to 7:30. That's different. That's like you've been awake throughout the night versus only being part of the night. Does that make sense?
Right. And it's like, and it's also not by choice as much, because it's like, having to work at night versus choosing the night. It's like, I think, because I get spiritual with it, and I think the spirit of the night, it's like when somebody's picking you versus when somebody's tolerating you. And it's like, I want to be with the person that picks me, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think I also, if I want to get chosen by the night, I have to choose the night first. And I could feel in that moment in the woods that I was not, the night would have picked somebody else. You know what I mean? Like as a champion type of thing. If there was a battle, I wouldn't have won. So it was just like, I could feel that. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I think I actually feel loyal to the night, to the dark, because I appreciate light, but it's like, I'm not drawn to it, I never have been. And I think that's where, if I'm being honest with myself, I just never have been. It's just, the way I'm wired.
When you're by yourself is another thing too. Like when you're alone and it's at night, or it's dark, or it's whatever, that's a different kind of animal. I had a business partner. His name was Eric. He was a nice guy. And he had always lived in a city environment, like Perth Amboy, Hoboken, whatever, right? So even when it's nighttime out, there's always people around. There's always lights on. There's always whatever. So he buys a house I don't want to say what town it is because he still lives there, but he buys a house in a suburban town. And now it's a different kind of night, right? It's darker. There's nobody on the street. There's whatever. So it was like 12:00. He bringing his trash can out. He puts the trash can on the corner, and he looks up, and there's a horse standing right in front of him.
Yeah.
And the horse looks at him. He looks at the horse, and he goes, "Ray, I've been around 100 horses. I've never, I've no fear of horses." He goes, "I almost shit myself." He goes, here I am. It's late. It's dark. There's no street lights on. And there's this fucking horse. He goes, so I kind of I backed up. You know what I mean? Like, and the horse is looking at me like, this guy's a fucking idiot, right? Yeah. I go, so what did you do? He goes, well, I dialed 911. I called the police. I go, on a horse?
Yeah.
When the cops came out, the horse was still there. They brought the farmer guy, and the farmer got the horse. The horse had escaped. They knew whose horse it was. The horse was slick, and he would always escape and just kind of go roaming around. But I found that to be very interesting, where if you ran into the horse during the day, you probably wouldn't think twice about it. But now you're alone
about the night
with the horse.
That's a great point. That's
it's interesting. It was a very interesting situation.
That horse is a nighttime hunter because he went hunting humans. He found himself a human to scare.
Rob is probably thinking.
All right. The horse thing. I don't ever think we're ever gonna have a situation where we're gonna walk to put my garbage out and there'll be a horse there waiting for me.
Well,
day or night. That's shocking. Day or night.
He lives in a farming kind of area.
No shit. He must.
That's shocking.
He must
expect that.
Yeah. And you start thinking about these things, and you're like, what the fuck? But that horse during the day is different than the horse at night. It's like when the police pull over a car. It's different during the day than it is at night. There's these different variable factors. Even when you get up, if you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning, I get up around 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Nice.
It's morning, but really it's still night.
You can feel it. It's still night.
You know what I mean?
I've noticed that. There's like this competition. It's like this competitive force where it's like, I'll be still awake and I'm like, all right, now I'm on the night side. And it's like the night team. And like, I can feel it where it's like, everybody wants it to be daytime and it isn't even daytime yet. And it's like, bro, like, just let us have the night. Like, it isn't even daytime yet, but what's it called? It's called Monday. It's not called Monday.
So 6 a.m. Is that morning? Is that the beginning of morning? 6 a.m.
I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Like there's the work scheduling and then there's like nature scheduling. I think it has to do with the light cycle. So that's why I think it feels natural for me to do it right now in the winter because it's dark all the time. So the night is larger. There's larger night. The day's smaller. But I think that I don't know.
Are you excited about no more daylight savings time coming up?
That sounds cool to me.
Then once we spring forward, we never go back ever again.
That'll be it. That sounds cool.
So what does that mean? It means that the day's going to be like summertime all the time. Obviously,
is that true, Rob?
The sun, yeah, that's true. I can't even make it up. It's called the Sunshine Preservation Act.
No, Lord.
And once they move it forward in March, whatever that is, that's it. We're done. Yep. It's never coming back.
The question that I have is, who is the authority on our calendar? Like, who gets to make that decision?
Congress, I guess.
Well, I know why they do. I know why they did it. Logistically, it's a nightmare. Like what I could tell you from just working with other countries. Like I do a lot of work with Pakistan. I do somewhat with UAE, and I know for India in particular, in Pakistan, there would be regions of India that were 8.5 hours ahead of time. They had half hours there. So you want to talk about that hours being a pain in the ass. I mean, you could have places in Indiana having one town acknowledges it and the other one doesn't.
And India.
In Indiana, but in India, you have 8.5 hours.
Oh.
8.5 hours. Usually their time zones are 1 hour. There's half-hour time zones in India.
So if India and Indiana want to sync up.
So I say that's just funny that why do we do it? Because everyone's got to be on the same schedule. So that way there is no more daylight savings times. No one's got a problem when it's not. No one's got a problem when the sun is out all the time. So that's pretty much the okay thing to do. It was going backwards that everyone wanted to do.
Yeah.
See, I feel better. Like my body feels better with this time right now.
Yeah.
Because I go to bed early.
No,
I get up early. That's me, right?
Going out, having the sunlight to do something after work
is important,
and having it like be light out. Like it would be great for it to still be light out by 6:30 every night.
So right now it's 7:17. It would be 6:17, or it would be 8:17.
It would be 8:17.
8:17.
So the way it was dark today at 5 o'clock, it would be dark at 6 o'clock.
So then at 5 o'clock, it would have been 4 o'clock.
So you're gonna get more. You're gonna get more light. The problem is in the morning you'll get more dark. It will be darker till 7 o'clock in the morning.
So what do you do with kids then getting on school buses and doing all that?
Suck it up, Buttercup. We did, and we turned out just fine.
Yeah,
that's the thing where somebody's got to give, somebody's got to pay. There's always somebody that's got to pay.
Can you imagine living in a state where you have 2 time zones in the same state?
Oh my God, it's got to
And
be terrible.
one building that you go to is in one county that does not acknowledge it. Can you imagine the nightmare that must be? You know, let's have a meeting. I know what I had to do. What I had to do UAE. I had to figure out like what the time, you know, what the thing was, and even setting a meeting, you have to say, okay, we're gonna have the meeting at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time. Like you have to say it because you don't know which one it is when you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. When I used to do, I used to work for this company, Guardian. We had 40 clients, 40 employees in India. And I was in charge of training the Guardian Indian crew. Yep. And I used to have to go in at like 4 o'clock in the morning for them to do the training. And I found that to be fascinating because India is so different than the United States. And I found that to be just absolutely fascinating, talking to people about buildings and about structure and about stuff like that, which is what the construction company what we used to do. And I found that to be really, really, really fascinating. For me, I function better during the day. I function better. Like Rob will text me at like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like done. I'm like, just starting to go until long. You know what I mean? But I get up early. It's just I have found that this is how I personally function the best. And I know other people that they can't get it. No matter what they do, but I think you could train yourself and you could be disciplined enough to say every day I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock, but you have to have the want and the desire.
There's nature. Yeah. I think there's a nature. I do think there's a nature. Like we were talking earlier about what animals do. And I want to talk about that again. Cause I think studying animals is a really cool way to tune into some of this stuff. And like, I got my cat a couple of years ago, and it's been a really cool experience to me because being a cat, I don't like using the word owner, but like having a cat in my family is a cool situation. And I was mistaken up until now. I thought cats were nocturnal, and they're not nocturnal. They hunt at dawn and at dusk. And cats are the apex predator. So I feel like you got like cats, crocodiles, and eagles hunt at a very high level, and I think there's a reason why they hunt at dusk and they hunt at dawn, and why to a day creature they feel nocturnal, because the fact that they're awake at night at all feels nocturnal. But if they were truly nocturnal, they would be asleep all day. You know what I mean? And it's like, so even just helping me get a little closer to my cat and closer to nature in general, I feel like these night experiments have been interesting, because the first couple of times I was awake at night, he was like, he was doing his patrolling, and he was like, "What are you doing up?" You know what I mean? Like, you're not up right now. This is usually my time. Like, I could feel where he was almost like, this is my time. Like, go to bed.
Why are you here, dude?
Yeah. Like, this is my time. And so I was like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but my goal is to be a high level hunter. And I hope this doesn't land wrong, because I think it is honest, and I have to just be real about it, because I won't ever lie. And I think sales is a form of hunting, and it's ethical when it's connecting people with what they need. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know that every single day there's people that I might be able to potentially save their life with this shit. And it feels very important there, where if somebody has a significant health need or a significant need with their fitness, and they've got 10 people lying to them, and they've got this going wrong, and just something to trust and somebody to be real with them and be honest with them, can do a lot. And I feel like that's where I want to apply the same principles, because I think that if I am asleep from 9 to 5, I should be able to quote unquote hunt at dawn and dusk. And I think that both the night and the day people are awake at dawn and dusk. And I've noticed that's why these advanced hunters like cats will hunt during that time period, because when there's this massive migration of both sides, it's very easy to nab a couple. You know what I mean? And it's very easy to
smart.
Walk into that, grab a couple, walk out, because that's everybody's in transit. And I think that, or most of nature is in transit, either transitioning into or out of the daytime. So I think that that's also a thing where, because I'll be honest, like the biggest challenge I face from a business standpoint, because I try not to get too businessy with it, because it's people and their lives and their bodies.
Sure.
And when I look at it that way, I do my best work. But I can't deny the fact that I went to business school and I got formally trained in how to look at that shit. So it's like, I do know that I have to have some type of sales model and pitch and funnel for my business won't work. Of course. And I think that's where, now that I finally have a product that I truly believe in, that I think is valuable, truly, so that I can speak to its value and not be a liar, now I have to go and do that. And I think that's where, in my own journey, I'll be honest, I feel my lazy voice will kick in and I want to just pay someone to do sales for me. And that's where I have to do it myself before anybody else would even want to do it for me, because it's my name, it's my business. I have to do it first, type of a thing. So it's like, that's where I'm at. So I think that's also what part of this is tuning into and connecting to nature, so that, because I'll be honest with you, and I'll even shatter the whole illusion. It's like, I want to be an interesting person, and it's like, I think that this makes me more interesting. And I noticed that it does. I'm interested in it because it's that mirror effect that if I'm interested in it, it's interesting. So I think it's the type of thing that it can only help if it's authentic and if it's real life and if I'm actually doing it. Like if I had been awake all day and if I wasn't doing this and then I hopped on and pretended to be tired, that wouldn't hit the same as actually rolling out of bed and hopping on this, because that's what I said I do. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think stuff like that's a little different, but I don't know. I think it's like extreme honesty, where it's like, I've now challenged myself to be alarmingly honest. So now I have to follow through on it, because if that's my brand, it has to be real. Like, it has to be real.
A couple of things you said that I think are interesting. First of all, the term businessy. I hate the term businessy. I'm going to tell you why. It's a business. You got to run your business, right? So no matter what you do, you have to, if you need a sales funnel, you have to create whatever you do that you have to do, quote unquote, for business. It's what you have to do. It's just, it's just what you have to do. So if you want to own a business, you have to do businessy things. So a lot of people say that I don't want to be too business like. Well, then don't own a business, because you might not have to wear a suit and tie, not for your business, but like the whole, I'm not going to be business like or businessy. That's you got to run your business. And maybe you don't share that with other people. Like Rob's an entrepreneur. He owns his own business. I own my own business. You own your own business. So we have to do business things, and we might not like it. We may not want to go on QuickBooks. We might not want to do whatever, but sometimes you have to do this, and you have to say, how can I get a lead? How can I sell another kitchen? Like I had an interesting phone call with a client. I gave her an estimate, and the estimate was for $11,000. And she said, I really think that this job should be, between $5,000 and $8,000.
Right.
So at this point, I already know I lost this at this point. I already know I lost it. So I said, why do you think that? And she goes, well, do you really think it's that hard to put tile in the bathroom, like on the tile a wall in the bathroom?
Yeah. Didn't see the value.
And I said, do you want a beautiful bathroom? You've seen all my pictures. All my bathrooms are beautiful. You've got me as a referral from other clients. They tell you how beautiful the bathroom is. If you want a beautiful bathroom, the price is $11,000. If you don't want a beautiful bathroom, or maybe you get somebody else that'll do it for $8,000, and maybe they're better than me. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I know what I have to charge, and I know what I'm worth. And that's part of my business model. And some people don't like that. Some people, I don't think this girl will ever call me back, because where I knew I lost the client was when she said, is it really that hard to tile the shower walls?
Okay, so why you don't want to work for that person anyway,
but you don't,
because you can never make that person happy. They will kick that thing to death and say, I could have did it myself. That's just, you're hearing it before it actually happens.
That's a lead that you want to disqualify. My question that I would ask you would be, when you identified that she wasn't a client, why give her another droplet of your attention and energy, and why not focus on somebody who is?
Well,
you know what I mean? Because
I'll tell you why.
I think that would be what the teachers say you're supposed to do.
Right. Well, I'll tell you why. She's never going to call me back, but I send her the estimate. A couple hours later, she calls me. We had this ridiculous conversation, and I wrapped it up with, if you change your mind, please don't hesitate to give me a call back. Knowing damn well she will never call me back. And I did that because I want her. One of the people that referred her, I know for a fact she'll probably call that person up and say, oh my God, how did you afford $11,000 for your bathroom? Their bathroom was even more expensive because they got custom lighting put in and this, that. And I don't know people's financial situations. Like, fuck, that's not my business. Can you afford my price? But I know she'll call that person. I want her to call that person and say, hey, Ray's a nice guy. He was just a little too expensive for me. As opposed to, not only was Ray expensive, but Ray's a dick. So we don't want to like,
I get what you mean. I
you
think
know what I
that's,
mean?
you make a
That's
good
important.
point, because like quickly disqualifying a lead in a way that it won't damage your good leads
Yep.
or
Well, I don't
affect
think
your
anybody
reputation.
wants to really like kill every single relationship,
No,
because
you
I
don't
may
want to
not be
kill
able
it.
to help someone today. It doesn't
You
mean
wanna
I
leave the
can't
door
help them
open.
down the road.
But
You wanna leave
Rob's
the door
right,
open.
bro. That's not the client. That's not the client.
Well,
that
there's
you
a
want.
price for that too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
There's a way to
It was a pain
make
in the
that
dick
situation go away. That $12,000, knowing that, would be higher and higher for every other ask that comes in, to the
Oh,
point
sure.
where she wouldn't want to do it, period.
Yeah.
It's either got to be worth your while so much to do it, you're going to make so much money on it that you're willing to be inconvenienced to have her as a client.
Yeah.
Because, you know, not only will it take your energy, it will take your enthusiasm a bit as well.
Now, if she
So I
would have
think
said, guys, if
I've
she
gotta
would have
ask-
said,
Sorry, I just want to ask one.
Okay,
I'll
yeah,
ask one thing, because I was taught that if you're getting a response, the game isn't over. So I think that my gut tells me, and this could be a Hail Mary, and maybe this is how I end up wasting some time on leads that should be disqualified. But I think that if I really analyze that and I hyperanalyze stuff, and I have the benefit of some hindsight, and I'm not in the moment, but it sounds like she was signaling that she didn't feel or understand the value. Like, how is this worth $11,000?
potentially,
You know, like it either wasn't worth that to her, she didn't have it, so fear kicked in, or she didn't see or feel that value. You know, and I think that's where
I say two things to that. I
Yeah.
say two things to that. Number one, I say if she would have said to me, "Hey, this is just out of our price range. I'm willing to work on saving some money, or what could we do to lower the price? Like instead of doing this tile, can we do
one
that
time? I
tile?"
have a question for you. Why would you go into this expecting her to tell you those things honestly? You know what I mean? Because people don't always say that honestly. They don't reveal that, you know?
Well, here's where she killed it. She killed it because she started saying, "Is it really that hard to tile a wall?"
But she's ignorant. It's saying
tile the wall yourself.
Like she's ignorant. Like, let me give you an example. If you came to my house and you gave me a number that I didn't like, I would always be very, very courteous and say, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for the estimate.
Sure.
I'll get it to me and I'll take a look at it. I'll let you know what I think." And I probably already know I'm not going to do it, but I care enough to make you feel more comfortable by just having a decent relationship. She cares about getting you on her edge.
Yeah.
She wants you teetering on her edge when she does that.
That's the difference.
She's already picking at you. You don't even have the job. You didn't even get paid yet. You're already dealing with bullshit from her.
Yeah. And I think what it also sounds like is the space, because there was about 6 months where I sold life insurance. Sold life insurance.
Terrible.
The second I said it, I could feel people, their shield would come up, because there's a lot of people that are very slimy with it. And I realized at the end of it that the entire company wasn't doing what they said they were, essentially.
Sure.
And I got to protect myself legally, but if anybody wants to do some digging, they could probably find what it was. And you know what I mean?
Life insurance is tough,
what I'm trying to say, but I think when you are in a space like you are with contractors, or like I am with trainers, there's a lot of liars and cheaters and stealers and people that are full of shit. So I think that's where you and I are in a position where we have to, there's this mountain of shit to get through, because there's all these people that do it. So a moment like that is like, how do I know this is worth that? How do I know you're not lying to me? But that's where if she's playing a game, like it's hard to be sure, because these things aren't 100% certain. But
that's the sales game, bro.
I think there's some signals that she's going into it without trust, because she got the referral, but it sounds like she doesn't trust the price, because she's like, how is that worth that? You know what I mean? Because she either thinks somebody will do it for less, or maybe somebody told her, you gotta watch out for these contractors. You know what I mean? So then it's like the type of thing where you go into it, and that's the point, is where I think it's also why you and I want to do it, because it makes a good one more valuable when the standard is shit. You know what I mean? And it's not to like shit talk the competition, but it's basically like, I see a lot of people doing really bad work out here. So if you come out here and you do some good work, you're immediately more valuable than that. And I think that a lot of people aren't going to believe that when they see it, because everybody claims to be that. Everybody claims to be that, and I think that's where it's like that moment that's like, how do I know you're what you say you are? And it's also, it sounds like fear and misunderstanding, because it's like when I talk to somebody about programming and I'll send them the workout, and then they'll feel frustrated because the ego will kick in and they'll say, well, I could have did that. And then I have to sit there and say, you didn't.
But you didn't.
And also it took me 15 years to be able to whip this up. So it's the type of thing that if you don't see and respect that, then we don't need to work together. But it's the type of thing that when you say that politely and you express that value, I think, and you express, you're working with a professional, like you're working with an expert legitimately, like, and you've seen my work, and that'll line up. And that's where people can feel when you're lying and then when you're not. And I think that's also what part of it is, because if assuming that she had the money and assuming that, there wasn't a game going on, it does sound like she just doesn't understand the nature of the work because it's a black box. So it's
that's potentially
it's just as simple as slapping tiles on the wall, where you can communicate something like, look, if one of these tiles is a fraction of a millimeter off, you're going to notice it in 6 months, and it's not going to be right. It's got to be right. You know what I mean? And like this is surgical work. So it's like, yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like that's what that sounds like to me. But also,
now, will she call back?
How much energy is that worth? Because there's somebody else that you can talk to, be like 11 grand, and then they'll be like, all right, where do I send it? And then that's it.
Well, let me give you an example of what I do when I get a situation like this.
This is interesting.
When I go into a situation, I always tell people my service, I do websites for a living. I always tell people it's $2 a day.
Nice.
So when they sit down with me, they automatically know what the price is going to be. So the fact that they're even sitting down with me tells me they're reasonably interested, because that's kind of a thing where I want to do it myself. I don't want to be bothered with it. Or I really would like the way he does the design. I really want him to do that thing for me. And I'm okay with both of those situations. But what I tell them is, when something happens, you call me and I fix it. I make it my problem immediately. That's what you pay for. You pay for a level of service that's probably a little more concierge than a help desk ticket that gets answered in 2 days.
Right.
I will get it fixed ASAP. And if I can't get it fixed, I'll be on the resolution path. Maybe it's something outside of my control. The domain gets disconnected, or something happens, or your credit card runs out and you don't renew it, and I have to go fix that. I'll go ahead and take that time. That's what you're paying for. So I just think that if people are more honest about what they're giving, and I tell them, if you want a professional person to do it, I can tell you why your website doesn't work. Like, I have this one client of mine who he'll go nameless, but he's trying to compete in a market where the pay-per-click for just a click on YouTube is about $1.50, $1.50 per click. He wants to know why he's not seeing any business. Now ask me what his budget is per day on Google.
$1.50.
It's $20. Yeah. So he's got 14 clicks. You better have some amazing website to transmit 14 into a decent number for you to make a lot of money on.
Yeah.
What should he close? What should he out of 14? What should he get, Rob? Like one? Well, I mean,
it all depends on the it all really depends on the market, because every market is different. Like, so what a website lead on Google would be is different than what a water and mold remediation guy is different than a contractor. It all depends really on the level. The more contractors that are willing to pay more money, that $1.50 could be $2.50 for a contractor. So that means if you spend $100, you'll get 40 clicks on the top of the page. His question was, why aren't I on the top of Google every time I pay $100? Well, you are. You're up there until they click it 40 times for $2.50. That's $100 budget a day. And if you don't transmit business, you don't transact business out of those 40, your listing goes all the way to the bottom, and anyone else with left money will be at the top of that list.
Interesting. I think I like that. I understand what you're saying with value. The other thing I've learned is I've come to the realization is you can't close everybody. You try your damnedest to close everyone, but there's going to be people that you just can't close. And then there's going to be people that after you speak with them, you don't want to close. Yeah. So, and I've had, I did a $60,000 kitchen last year, and we negotiated the price a little bit. We reviewed stuff. We made some cuts that we had to make some cuts on. It was very cordial and everybody was very, very happy. And they ended up getting an absolutely gorgeous kitchen, and the people absolutely love it. And I got great referrals from it, and I use pictures from their kitchen all the time. But what I do know is there's other people that I am like, oh my God, thank God those people said no, because I know the torture what it would have been. And there's other people that I missed out on that I really wish I would have worked with her, because man, they're such nice people. but it wasn't in their budget, or they shopped it to 3 different contractors and they just like this other guy better than me. There's a lot of reasons why you lose it. I've lost basements to people that charge more than me. I had a guy in somewhere in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Beautiful home. He said, my budget to do the basement is like 70 grand. And I want this, and this. And I want all my jerseys hung up here with lights on them. And I need this.
Yeah.
No problem. We could do it. This idea was like that. No problem. So I'm thinking like, I got this. I close this motherfucker, right? I'm going to get $35,000 down. This is money. I'm going to do whatever.
Right.
A couple of days later, I call the guy back. Hey, Mr. Jones, whatever. And he goes, I actually went with another contractor. And I said, oh, okay, it's cool. I said, was it price? He goes, I'm actually spending more with the other guy.
Yeah.
I think to myself, what the hell was it? Well, the other guy had some better ideas than me. He was a better salesman than me. Maybe he was more charming than me. I don't know. But whatever it did, and that's happened. So when you find clients for your training, that's something that you have to say to yourself too. Like, do you really want to train everyone that contacts you? That's a big question.
Yeah, my thing is I've got that. Luckily, I have that figured out because it took me a while to kind of pressure test that and iron it out. And like, I will honestly train anyone, and I think anyone can train with me. And I think it comes down to the situation. So if somebody's in a position where they can't afford it, I will work with them until they can in a capacity. I will find a way to help them until they can afford signing on fully, because I think this type of thing, it's not fair to the people that pay me to give away what they pay for. Sure. So certain things have to be guarded, and certain things are worth that because I put my, everything into it. But I think that I know how it goes. And I think that financial barriers, it's as much as I need money, I don't want to be gripped by the spirit of profit. Like it has to be about helping somebody with something that they want. And then if I happen to make money, that's also good. But I think that that's where the way that I run my pricing is I'm going to be lower than the market average. And then every year, as part of my honesty model, because I want to create powerful incentives, because I think that's pretty much what I'm in a position to do, is I'll run a really aggressive Black Friday sale, which some trainers say you're not supposed to do, but I've got some feelings about that, because I want everybody that was about to wait till January 1st to just start now. And I think that what people need to understand is the resolutions can work, but there's a reason why Thanksgiving hits and then people throw the diet out the window until New Year's. And then they've done a month of damage. They've done a month of actual damage to their body. And I think that's the type of thing where as a trainer, it saves us all a lot of work. You know what I mean? Because it's like, imagine if you could offer an incentive for people to do half of your job for you. That's what it is, because there's less work to do if there's less damage done, and it's very momentum based. So if somebody's about to make a month of bad decisions, essentially, because it's bad personally. So if they know they shouldn't do it and they're doing it, unfortunately, there's a markup. January 1st, we're going to work together. We're going to pay full price, and that price is a little higher than it was last year. And that's what you've got to feel, because you did that. You know what I mean? And
that's a good marketing idea.
I'm trying to connect it to nature, because that, it should be connected to it. And it's also like, I noticed that there's like a training drought right around now, because everybody's spending their money on everything but training. So people like me that are expecting sales to come through because they're new in the game, they're going to get discouraged, because that it's like the bowstring being pulled back before that January 1st, release. And I think that it's like that accumulation phase, and it's the type of thing that not being able to navigate that or be prepared for it has affected me in the past. And that's where I was lucky. My cousin Lauren, she's a genius. I hit her up and I asked her for help. And she basically said, you're a business owner now. You're too much in the weeds. You've got to think about how your actual industry fluctuates, because you're not, you've got to be above that. And she was right. I forgot that there's a huge dip and a huge spike January 1st. So I'm sitting here during Black Friday trying to compete with the mall on Black Friday. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
It's not. They're blasting everybody with everything everywhere. People need to feel the pain of their mistakes before they're going to come to me. And as much as I hope that I can be like, don't make the mistake, that usually isn't what works. You know what I mean? What works is, all right, you felt the pain of the mistake. Now it's time to fix it. So like, that's what I'm trying to work into it, but it's tough because it's like I see some trainers charge $3,000 a month, and I see how they might be worth that, and I see some trainers, give away their knowledge, and it's a tough situation because I don't feel like it's mine to own, but also I paid a price for it, so some price has to be paid. Which is where if somebody approaches me and they don't have the money, then bring somebody to me that does. If you bring me one person and they sign up, I'll train you for free for 4 months. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the type of thing that we work something out, we work
Did
something
you,
out.
are you all, I know a couple different trainers. So one trainer, she does 2 programs. One's $40 a week and one is $65 a week. And
Nice.
the $40 a week is you get to talk to her, like say on Sunday, and you get, like they email you a program, both diet and exercise program. You follow that, you check in again the next week. The one that's $65 is you get a lot more access to her. Then I know other trainers that are significantly more expensive. They are 100, like you buy like 6 lessons, say, or they're not lessons, but 6 training sessions for $600.
Right.
And then you go once a week and you train in person, and then you go a couple of times a week on your own, and then you go once a week and you train in person. It's the value that you created, and kind of what Rob and I have a little business venture together as well, internet advertising and SEO. Was that it? Is it, Rob, SEO? It's more like social media.
More social media than SEO.
That's
right.
That's what I need.
And well, that would be interesting. We could definitely talk about that. But we know, I don't think we charge enough. And Rob says we charge what we're supposed to charge. And then there's other things that we can do to add to that fee to give you more value.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about the industry to, if you asked me about construction and somebody said, hey, I could put that floor. I have a friend, Rich. He could put in a floor for $1 a square foot.
Damn.
Okay. He does 20,000 square feet a month. So the guy makes 20 grand a month, and he's got a helper, one dude, a helper. He probably pays $1,000 a week too.
He's like the cost leader. He's killing it. Right. But it's volume work, and he has to really, really work his ass off to make it happen. So that's what you have to say to yourself. You also have to say to yourself, am I getting good residual income out of this? So like, am I signing up people? Am I getting good residual income out of this? But the final thing is know what you're worth, because if you can't charge enough, that if you have to start worrying about your bills, like there was one point in my past where my company had faltered. And I spent more time worrying about, am I going to be able to pay my car bill? Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do that? That it distracted me from my business. And that's a killer. So you have to make sure that you could be self-sustaining with that. And as a young business owner yourself, that's, I would say, the number one thing that, what do I need to earn a week? Oh, I need to earn $1,000 a week to live comfortably, or whatever your number is.
Well, you know what, right? You know, the biggest problem is people, when they want to go into something, it's like the phrase where they say they jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do when you jump into a water is jump in with both feet. The first thing you do is you stick your toe in, right?
And you do it.
You stick your toe in. I'm not saying you're not going to jump, but is it boiling lava? Is it water? Is it ice water? What do we got going on here?
You risk the toe. You risk the toe.
Well, you're risking a little bit. You're going to risk a little bit to see, like, oh, it's not too bad. I can do that. I'll swim it. Yeah. Like when Ray sticks his body in, when he goes into Mercer Lake there to do his 1 mile swim in that disgusting lake, he's gonna hit the fan right there, and you're gonna know, like, do I want to do it? So what I tell people, the best thing to do is start slow and see the results, and see results first. Yeah. If you don't see a result, then we need to change the mechanism so you can see results. Right. I know, like, I have the client, same client again, who keeps telling me I'm not on the top of Google. Okay, so what do you want to be? Mold services near me. Okay, well, here's the first problem. Google doesn't know that. Google knows water damage services. So if he would have been saying water damage services the whole time instead of mold services or mold removal services, he would have had a lot more clients. That goes with the client knows everything and they insist they want to try this. And we'll let them try it. we warned him against it. And of course, he paid $1.50 for leads that he can't transact because it's just not worth it. It's 14 clicks on Google. His website is so many pages, and it was because he followed a policy and a construction method that was just so much text on the page that it turned people off, and they left. They would be on the page and they would leave, because people, when they look at a website, they automatically have made the decision, I am either going to read this or not read this. Before they read it, they look at the size of it and they say, nope, not going in there. I'm not starting it. Not wasting my time. That's what they say in their brain. The average website visit's only 8 seconds long, 8 seconds. So you literally have to put out the perfect message. And this client just insisted on doing what he thought was best instead of listening to a professional person, whether it be a trainer or a contractor or a graphic designer or a website designer, to tell you this is why it works. You can't fake out Google. If they say it's $1.50 and you only spend $20 a day, you're getting 14 clicks a day. That is it. And after that, you'll be number 37. And so, because I asked them, I says, what are you seeing? Like, what results do you see? He goes, I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know the answer to that question?
Yeah,
you should know every answer to the question, because every client that comes to me, I tell them exactly what I'm doing. I'm spending $5 a day. We're making 5 different images with 2 messages. We're going to boost them on Facebook, and we're going to see from the people's reactions, not what I think or what you think or Ray thinks, but what actually the people who click on it thought about. Which one was the best one? And you know what happens usually? The one that you like the least probably is the most
successful
out of the 5. Usually that's the one that somehow, because it was a light colored flower versus a dark colored flower, that one was optically more visual. So
the thing that you have to check
the clients need to be awake and need to be alert and need to be say, let's just try something a little bit first, and then we can take it from there.
Andrew, I'm going to leave you with this.
This
is what I'm going to leave with. I think the night training is an awesome, incredible niche. I think that you could do really, really well with that. I think if you
underserved,
I think you could.
Underserved.
Do you want to do really well with that? Do you see yourself 2 years from now being the night trainer?
Yeah. I think that it suits me. I can feel it
working. There you go.
Like, I'm down to train people during the day, but I think that there is a night trainer needed. Like there's a genuine need, and I can't name one. You know, I can name 100 day trainers that's what they do. All the pictures of them are out in the sunlight, and they're training people that, you know, are awake in the day and sleep at night. And I think that's where it's a different type of thing, because like it's the experiment I've always wanted to run. Because I think the one thing I want to say that I forgot to mention is when I was super young, I was in like 3rd grade, and we had to do our first science experiment. And what I did was we were given like a seed, and we had to plant the seed and manipulate some variables. And everybody had their seed, and I took my seed, I planted it, and I put it in the dark. And because they said that you couldn't grow a plant in the dark. And for some reason at that age, I needed to see it. And I put it in, and it grew, but it grew really pale, and it grew really frail. It grew pale and frail compared to the other plants, but it grew. You know what I mean? And I remember there was something about that where, I don't know, like if it doesn't have to compete against the day, it's not pale and frail. It's strong just for existing, you know?
Andrew, that's really insightful. And I think that's a great way to tie this up. If people want to find you, if anybody listening to this podcast wants to find you on social media or wherever, how do they do that?
Yeah, the Andrew.Prometheus on Instagram is my Instagram handle, Andrew.Prometheus. And then YouTube is Andrew P Training. Andrew P for Andrew Prometheus. Andrew P Training. And that's me on YouTube. But I have the YouTube link, and then I have everything linked around. So I haven't thrown the YouTube link on my website yet, but my website is also andrewptraining.com.